Welcome to this week's live stream. How's it going, fellas? Chat, what's up?
What is up?
How you doing?
Good.
Old man?
Doing good. Sorry, I'm just getting here, so.
Welcome.
Hello.
All right, guys. I'm trimming cannabis, but and we really popped this on really quick right after Old Man jumped in our chat, but we were already talking away a little bit. Let's go through real quick and get an introduction of everyone that's here in the chat. Welcome, guys, to the Bro Show Live, like Skilbo said. Eagle, you're the first person I see next to my picture, so I'm going to say you. What are your socials? How can people find you? And how'd you get into this business? You got your mute button on, my friend. Here, I'll unmute you.
There you go. How about that?
Now you're unmuted. Hit it.
Okay. Eagle Gardens on pretty much all platforms. Mass Roots, Instagram, any weed forums, you'll find me there some way, somehow. How'd I get started? Well, I just got tired of paying for it, really. Decided I had a license and an opportunity, and I was going to take advantage of that and start growing my own medicine and start saving a little bit of cash. And from there, it went from that to, seeing how powerful the medicine really is and wanting to help other people save some money and get genuine medicine too.
And you do that. Sorry for asking you an intro question into like how'd you get into growing, but you do that as a member of our show, talking to us. We all exchange cuts and help each other out and getting good medicine to each one of us. Spartan, you're the next one on my list. I think you're just catching up in the chat. How would you like to introduce yourself this evening?
I'll just say I'm Spartan Grown. You can find me on Instagram. That's pretty much there, or YouTube. I don't have any videos or anything, but I don't really do much more than that because it's just too many things for me to keep track of. So you'll see me as Spartan Grown on Instagram. Or I'm also a commercial cultivator, and I work for Mitten Canna Company, which is also on Instagram, Mitten Canna Co.
That's really cool what you guys are doing there at Mitten Canna Co. Crops really look good.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. It's really like I tell everybody, I was like, that's how they snagged me, because when I walked in there the first day and talked to them as a grower, when you talk to another grower, within 10, 15 minutes, if you're going to agree with their style or not their style. And these guys were like above me. You know what I mean? It wasn't even my level. They were above me. So, I happily jumped on.
That's one thing I noticed with a lot of commercial grows was that a lot of the people that work there aren't as experienced as you might think when you go into a big building. You're like, okay, these guys are all going to have it together. And then you're like, oh, shit, they don't.
Well, that's usually by design, because if a master grower or there's a procedure or SOP that you want people to follow 100% every time, it's usually a lot easier to teach people that have never gardened before or just have a basic knowledge of gardening, one way, and that's the only way they know how, rather than somebody who's set in their own ways and might fight you on things and stuff like that, or have bad habits, things like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You can have some people that want to input a little bit more knowledge than they should, maybe not understanding their order of the pecking order, so to speak.
Not even that, because that's fine. If you have something to add, jump in. That's the atmosphere we're in. But I'm thinking more of like bad habits, I guess, is more my thing. Like somebody who might be perpetually messy, and doesn't realize that, in this kind of environment, one leaf on a table, sitting there for a day might not be a big deal, but anything past that, and you're talking possible mold, because those tables are catching water. So you mix water with dead leaves and you get issues. So just little things, man. I could go on for hours about it. So, but basically,
Yeah, I agree.
Godliness, man.
I grow in a similar way to you guys grow in the commercial scene with a media and a synthetic nutrient and a very sterile environment. You got to keep it clean all the time. It's kind of the opposite of what the no-till guys, or like what Abolish does. Shout out to Abolish. She'll be here a little bit later. They're doing kind of the opposite things. So you definitely want to make sure that everyone's got the same philosophy when they're in that grow room, like you were saying. Old man, we got to get to you, my friend. How would you like to introduce yourself? You're wearing the Sundrop shirt we got from Kyle at the Cup.
Right? Love that shirt.
Yeah, beautiful artwork.
I'm digging it. So yeah, Old Man Hermit Hash on Instagram. That's pretty much it. Or Gmail, you know. How did I get into this? Basically necessity. I'd been in a car accident. My back got really jacked up, and I wouldn't do opiates. Recovering opiate addict, all that stuff. I'd been sober, straight out, 100% for 15 years, and rediscovered cannabis in a way that I'd never really experienced it, I think, before. In the medicinal sense, in a really helpful way in my life. And it really just turned me into this obsessed with medicine, cannabis medicine thing. So I quit my job, and here I am.
Obsessed is a good word. Yeah. I ever since I started reading about how to grow, like, you know, that was my first step. Everything I do, I want to read about it and learn. And before I do it and waste a bunch of money, I started reading about it and then never stopped. And here we are. We got a show now. We're one of the people that are putting out the content that we were looking for when we started, which is an amazing thing when you really think about the circle of things and how that's worked out.
Yeah, it's been really cool. You know, Spartan came over this weekend and we went over my grow a little bit, and he showed me some stuff that I hadn't ever thought of. You know, I mean, being a part of this community has been super, super cool. But I'm just learning and learning and learning. I'm doing a lot of research and development on edibles and solventless edibles, hash edibles, and, you know, pressing rosin and doing all that stuff. I've been doing a lot of washing lately. So it's been good. It's been really good. I've been making a lot of progress in my outdoor grow. It's been really good. My indoors coming around. It's been a good couple months for me, so I'm pretty happy. You know, we'll see what happens.
That's all you can ever do, brother. Hell yeah. And since Sequence is over there at the moment trying to get back into trim jail, I figured I would take over for a minute and give him a break and let him get some sticky fingers going on. So I just want to welcome everybody. I am Scobo1 on Instagram. I love doing this show. I love these guys, and I really get a lot back from this. Tonight, we talked before the show about some things that we'd like to talk about. We will have a PSA before the end of the show. I just kind of wait for more people to show up so we can talk about what's been in the news here. But I want to cover the events that we have coming up that we're all planning on going to this week. And we want to talk about basically maybe resetting our gardens and seeing what chat's got going on in theirs, and basically wrap this thing up and have a good show. So it is the beginning of football season, so I know that our ratings are going to be down a little bit right now, and that's okay because we do have the tried and true, the diehards here. So who wants to kick it off today? Who wants to step out into the ring first?
So I didn't walk away because my hands were sticky. I walked away actually to find some of my stuff because I'm surrounded by by plants. But I actually didn't have anything that was ready to like roll. So I went and grabbed a jar. So I'm ready now.
You can't be a tease like that. Hold up, brother. You got to bring that bud back and hold that a little more still so people at home can see it when you talk.
I got a bunch of it over here.
A dry trimmer over there, huh?
Yeah, I'm dry trim. Holy shit. I'm dry trimming. I'm covered in leaves now. Everyone knows how that goes. My floor everywhere, it's got leaves.
So tell us what it is.
This is the Crescendo. I've been trimming the Citral Blue consistently since Friday, like 24 hours a day. We're a couple pounds in right about. Harvest went really well. All the bud is really dense. There's little things to make progress as far as yield and stuff like that, but the quality is very, very good. Really excited to share it with all of you guys this coming weekend. I'm very excited. I haven't gotten to share anything with anybody from the show yet. I've had a lot of opportunities to get stuff from everyone at every show so far. So I just bought something like 5 minutes before the show started as part of my gift package for everyone this weekend. So hopefully I get to see you guys. But the harvest went really well. Yields were good. Quality was good. I've got some ideas of what to do to improve it next time, which you always want to do. So, yeah, it's really sick. Now I'm resetting the room. My veg is behind because I got busy with the show and I could come up with a lot of excuses, but basically I got too busy and didn't do as much with it as I should. So I got a little bit of veg catching up to do, but I'm really happy with the results.
Life gets in the way sometimes, man. We all have lives. We're all, well, not all, but a lot of us are patients and we have other things going on in our lives. So let's play the game. Hey, bro, how many plants and how much weight did you get, man?
Let's see. I averaged. Let's see. I wrote this down. For the citral glue, I averaged 117 grams per plant for 5 plants, and then the crescendo averaged over 5 ounces per plant. So I'm right at about between 2.25 to 2.5 pounds. I'm not quite done trimming yet. It's not too shabby for a first run with the full size room. The CO2 added, accounting for plant density, growing from seed, so phenotyping and all that included. Pretty pleased with the result.
What were you using lighting there? You got, how many lights was that, 2?
Yeah, I have 2 lights. I'm using the HLG 600H. So it's you have the 550 V2. It's like a kit version of that light. That just basically it's the same panels, just a bigger driver, so a little bit more watts.
Oh, nice.
I kept my lights. You wouldn't even believe this shit. Eagle, I think, has used these lights before too. About 30 to 35 inches away for this whole run.
Holy cow! Really?
And got those yields. So for the next run, I'm going to move them down and really see what it does. The buds are super dense too. So I think between adding plant density and moving my lights down more, I think I'm going to see even better gains.
Yeah, I run mine.
Like half of that, probably.
18 to 12. 18 to 12. Yeah, but I mean, it's only a 5. It's the 550, but it's really only pulling like 480 watts. So you're pushing a lot more photons than what I am too.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I mean, even the buds that were at the bottom didn't get larvae on me. So the lights really performed well, and the trim techniques that I learned from my buddy Jack Greenstock, I think it's called Mango Tech that he uses, where you defoliate it like day 21 and 42. That worked really well. Buds were dense all the way down the branches, which was amazing for me. Trimming is went really fast. My buddy came over and we trimmed like 5 ounces in like 2 hours last night. So it was really sweet.
Yeah, that's another thing that a lot of people don't talk about with leaf stripping is that another benefit. I know there's some people that will say there's a lot of drawbacks, but another benefit is that it makes trimming a hell of a lot easier.
It sure does. Is anyone else trimming? Eagle, you're over there chopping parts of your plant off. Are you trimming today?
Yep, I'm trimming up some Primal Punch from MedGrower 1. Super tasty smoke. If you haven't tried it, I suggest getting your hands on some. You guys will try it this weekend because I'll most definitely have some with me. Yeah, nice looking plant. I haven't got to really flower much under my HLG yet. And when I did flower, I did the same thing. I put it about 3 feet above and I just threw some small girls under there just because I had the space and wanted to fill it. But I'm hoping to get a better run out of it next round, that's for sure.
Look, I got some Primal Punch seeds from my buddy Spartan Grown. I wonder if yours and his are kind of from the same lineage, if they're the same generation or whatever.
Yeah, they're the F1s.
Speaking of MedGrower 1, I hope that
mine.
everybody has gotten a chance to watch that this week and or listen to it, as it were. It was a really good episode.
If you get the chance or didn't get the chance, there's a giveaway on our page, and you have until tomorrow to enter and try to win Ocean Grown seed packs, hats, shirts, all that stuff. They're giving away 3 packages, so look for that on our website or on our Instagram page.
What were you about to say there, Eagle, about your you got the F1s too, right? I'm assuming you did.
I was one of the lucky ones at first. I think I was one of the first people that actually got seeds. So I don't know if they're the same batch or not, but I got those and a Skunk Bunch at the same time, which was about 1.5 years ago now. And,
Yeah, He gave me mine. It was the second cup of last. I've been growing longer than that. I can't remember when they came out now. Whenever he released them, not too much longer. It was in the same year that he released them. So whatever year that was.
They probably are the same batch then, I would think. Eagle probably got the testers from the same seed run.
I believe so. I know the F2s are on their way. Yeah, and I have room for them. As soon as they reach my hand, they're hitting the dirt.
Yeah, I've got that's one of my 5 keeper strains. One of them's a Primal Punch.
What kind of flavors should we expect from a Primal Punch? I know that Spartan, yours tested really high too, right?
Yeah, 24/7. Let me see. No, 24.0 is what that one was. And this was, I popped them like literally the night I got home from the cup. I popped them that night. So I don't know how many people had a chance to even pop them before me, but when I got to him with my harvest and I got to him and I sent him the test results, he says it's the highest test results he'd seen yet. I'm sure people have beaten it now.
I know I've had good luck with all my gear that he's been nice enough to pass me. And I think I'm the only one, again, that's growing out all of his strains. And that I think that even includes the Ocean Grow boys. I have his Primal Punch F1s. I have his Skunk Punch. I have his Beard on Fire. And hopefully early this week, I'll have the F2s in the dirt. So I'm a bit of a Med Grower 1 fan, I guess you'd say. Good genetics.
I can see why.
Me too. I got beat all right. Probably the next one I pop.
Med did give you a shout out on our interview, Eagle. I'm not sure if you listened to the episode yet, but he talked about you a little bit in there.
Yeah, definitely. He's a really nice guy, man. It was nice to talk to him.
I did listen. I listened to all the shows, as soon as they come out, if not that Monday, Tuesday sometime for sure. Usually late Tuesday, Monday night, Tuesday, when I'm about 2:00 in the morning, I listen to them. But I listen to them for sure.
You're always online really late at night, like a crazy person. Abolish has dropped in here. Abolish Farms, are you there? Can you give us a little intro real quick?
Yo, yeah, I'm just trying to get things settled. Got Miss C's a little under the weather. Take care of her. And also helping Red Setter get situated. He's going to be jumping in here in a minute.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. I'll get on my phone and try to help him out as well.
Look at that cannon.
What's up?
I said, look at that cannon.
Rapid Cobb's in your picture there. He's talking about, I think.
Oh, yeah. Those are the Chill Rapid Collab Girl Mouse Megazord there.
I see a Cannon Queen hanging out on that light too.
Oh, yeah. I put her in the background last week. Expected to be on camera, but like I said, I'm playing doctor right now, so it's just garden cam tonight.
And what are we looking at?
This is the Fire and Flames, looks like, in the center, and then you can see just a little bit of the Sour Melon.
Now that Fire and Flames is one of your favorites, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm actually, like I said last week, I'm doing my first real legit breeding project, not just, I let a strain go too long and I got some seeds, but I crossed it with the pineapple sorbet from Mantis Genetics. And we're kind of up in the air on the name right now, but I'm thinking Pele, the Hawaiian goddess of fire.
Nice.
Damn good name for a strain of weed, bro.
While we're doing this intro with Abolish, can you also tell everybody that happened to miss the show on Wednesday what that was all about?
Yeah, last Wednesday we did the Frugal Way, where a bunch of us came out here, including Spartan Grown, Skillbo was there, and we started to work this process of everybody becoming cheap, frugal, improving what I've begun all these years. it's pretty cool. Like people like Spartan, which he can look at my system with his experience and his knowledge and see what he knows what it's gonna do on the first run. So he's already thinking ahead. He's got I don't know if he wants to share it, but he's got some pretty cool ideas. But that's basically what I'm doing is I'm getting a group of people together to try and show them the basic fundamentals you need to just grow that dang clean and cheaply.
It's really cool how cheap you've been able to do it, or how frugally you like to say. And you have a big chat of other frugal growers, right? And you're trying to invite other people that are interested in growing the same way.
Yep, and
Oh, I think you muted there, or you cut out somehow.
What I would add to that is that Spartan earlier was talking during the chat, and he had sourced the Coco Loco soil and was amazed to see how cheap it actually was versus what he had been using.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at that's one thing that some people miss is look at the quantity, look at what you're actually how much you're actually buying because those Coco Loco bags are freaking huge. There's 2 cubic feet in that one bag, and for 2 cubic feet, I was paying. Actually, I got it sitting right here in front of me. Coco Loco, $15.95 for one bag, and that's 2 cubic feet. I was paying for example, I also picked up some Detroit new company's Great Lakes water only soil, and it was $16.50. So it's more expensive than the Coco Loco, and it was only 1 cubic foot, so half as big. So talking about amazing savings right there if I can get this substrate to work over the other one.
Just to add to that, the cocoa that I use, I'm not using the same method, and I don't know about Coco Loco if that's straight cocoa, but the cocoa perlite mix that I use, the Mother's Earth, is 1.7 cubic feet, and it's usually around like $25 a bag. So that's less and costs twice the price.
Yeah, and it's not a pure cocoa. It's got some stuff mixed in. It's forest humus, which could be just tree bark sometimes, depending. I mean, I'm tending to think that Fox Farm is kind of somewhat trustworthy, especially after that letter they sent out after Hawthorne started pulling their crap. So I kind of trust Fox Farm a little bit. So I'm going to say that it's maybe some good stuff besides just bark. But then there's also bat guano in there, and there's also worm castings in there. And they've inoculated with mycorrhizae. And I think there's a fungi in there too. So there's a lot of bang to your buck right there. That's multiple products I just listed off.
Perfectly made for what he's trying to do with his system. A good recommendation by Abolish for sure.
Abolish, your mic is screwed up, dude. It just sounds like static when you try to talk.
Yeah.
Try dropping out and coming back in.
Or unplugging it and plugging it back in. Old school.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like when you like the old school speakers, you didn't have it turned in all the way, or you did. It's just like the connection's weird.
So I guess I'll jump in really quick. Yeah, we can hear you a little bit better, Abolish. What's up? Okay, I was going to say for my next run, since my veg is behind, I'm not going to run my regs that I have in veg. I put the Citro Glue and Crescendo Keepers that I want to keep, as well as Ethos Big Detroit Energy, which is a FEM, and the Sour Melon that I got from Abolish, and that's going to be my next run. And while those are in flower, I'm going to sex all my regs and then run those after. So I'm running Sunshine and Haze from Kyle Gardner is still in the works, and the other reg that I'm running is a Oregon's Huckleberry crossed with Ice Cream Man. What's up, Red Setter? You got the best background in the whole shop, bro.
Yeah, he's showing us all up on day one.
Holy shit.
Hold on, let me get a mute going here.
If you click mute on your mute, and you can use spacebar to unmute yourself.
I gotta get onto my other browsers here. Give me a second.
We have to get a volume check too. So while we're
Red Setter Farms, he'll be our podcast episode for Monday tomorrow. our episode will release.
Check,
He really
check.
helped us. Yeah, you sound better, man. He really helped us learn about automated watering, among other things. He's got a pretty sophisticated grow himself. Red, how about you introduce yourself, my friend?
How's everybody doing tonight? I'm Red Setter Farm. I'm a caregiver out here in the wonderful state of Michigan. I'm a patient myself, caregiver service here. I got started into cannabis many, many years ago and became a patient myself back in 2012. And let's just say that I love the plant, I value the plant, and I value the patients and everything that has to do with the plant. So let's just rock and roll here tonight, guys. Yeah, I got a synthetic setup, salt setup. I'm a hydroponic grower. And, if you want to learn some hydroponics or talk some hydroponics, feel free to ask some questions in chat, guys.
I just coughed real good in the mic like 3 times, thinking my shit was muted. So you're welcome to everybody that's got headphones on. The citral glue that I harvested, old man's laughing so hard because we made fun of him so hard about shit like this.
Up on a blooper reel, dude. Yeah.
The citral glue works. That's all I was gonna say. It did the job.
That cough wasn't too bad in my headphones.
So those, what we're talking about with that Coco Loco, I think it's going to work really good in a sip container situation, because really when I was looking at Abolish episode and looking at his build out, I mean, it was just a sip container, just at a big, one res for multiple containers rather than a single unit for one plant, which I run. So when I started wrapping my mind around it that way, I was like, well, this is what I'm already doing. I'm just going to change the substrate.
It's kind of cool when you think about it. Makes it simpler.
Well, one change I think I'm going to try to do, because I was always racking my brain on, with these sip containers, how can I run worms in my container? I've never done it, because I always would think that they would just get down to the bottom, because the way the sip container works is just the 4 corners of it go all the way to the bottom as far as media goes. And then there's like slats in there so that water can wick up those 4 corners into the main bed, and then dispersed evenly throughout the whole planter. But there's water res right there, so I would think that the worms would crawl down in there and just drown, and I'd have a million worms in my res smelling disgusting. But what I was thinking today is maybe if I take the idea that like Abolish is using in his style, he's using just an open container with hydrogen pellets. I wonder if I just open up my res before I plant and fill it full of hydrogen pellets and hydroton, or however you say it. And then that'll be like rocks and stuff for them to maneuver their way back to the soil and hopefully not just completely drown.
Yeah,
They'll live and thrive down in that.
And like LED Builder in the chat says that the worms will only hang out where they want to be. They won't go into the water and just drown themselves. I guess they're smart enough. But it'll give them a way to get out if they do get in there, and that's a good thing too.
Well, what I'm concerned is because also there's a what separates the soil from the water res below it is just a plastic grate with holes in it. Well, there's going to be air between that water and the soil level. So if a worm goes to the bottom of the soil and hits air and it just goes a little too far, he just boom drops right down into the water res. Now I got anaerobic conditions or who knows what, dead worms. It's just, I don't know. I'm thinking if I have a bed of those pellets, then the worm will be able to catch itself on it. You know what I mean? And then worm its way to.
Worm its way. I love it.
I know that's right. But then I'm thinking, man, is it going to be able to hold that kind of weight? They get pretty heavy and they kind of bow at the bottom a little bit because they're on wheels, which is another awesome thing. So they don't sit straight on the floor. And so there's a benefit there. And so I think I'm going to try one with the pellets and one without, and probably add worms to eat both of them and just see if there's a difference between the two. Because if there's no difference, why even mess with it?
If you create a worm massacre, I'm calling PETA. But I'm excited to see what your results are.
I'm breeding more, so I got a worm bin, so I'll just keep repopulating.
Could you sneak an air stone down in one of those reservoirs?
Yeah, I totally could, but I'm trying to go as cheap as possible, so I don't even want to add electricity cost. But I mean, yeah, you could definitely, but I don't think it's necessary because the water reses even have overflows. So if it gets up to a certain point, like the water will never reach the point of the soil, the soil that's suspended above it, because there's overflows, holes on the side, and the water will drain out. So you always have air in between. So you always have some surface area of the water covered with air. So I don't think I have to worry about anaerobic conditions, because another thing is important in this kind of system is how you water. You don't water. I have a tube that goes how you can water through without having to water through the soil itself. You could just water through the tube and it goes directly to the res. Well, I just put a flashlight down that tube, and if I see water, I don't water it. I let it dry completely out before I put water back in it for that reason. That way, there's a big air pocket in there, and it's not completely full of water all the time and going anaerobic on me.
But you do top water from time to time.
Yeah, I do. If I have any kind of top dress, I'm going to water that in. And I usually water in at least once to twice a week through the top also, because I just think there's something to that. Honestly, I use the tube more often to look through than I do to water through. When watering, I'll just water right over top of the soil a lot of the times. But sometimes I'll do just something. If it's just a quick water, I'll just go down the tube. But actually, I don't have a set schedule. It goes that way. It's either way it works, because the water will filter through the soil and still collect in the res if you water through the soil.
The top water guys like to argue, and I'm kind of curious about the counterpoint, because we have at least two of you guys use SIP style, you and Abolished primarily. And the top water guys would argue that the SIP style doesn't adequately water the top part of the soil, so your roots don't live up there.
Right.
I don't know if you guys have experienced that, or if you don't, because you top water a little bit more often.
Right.
No,
Because
that's
the top dress.
That's why I use not a cover crop, but like a top dress of straw. I use straw. Or I also what I've been doing lately is taking some of my sticks, the thinner ones, like when you're trimming the thin sticks. I'll save all those at the end, and I just throw them in an upside down clone dome, and I fill that. When that fills up, I'll use those little sticks as straw on the top, and that holds that moisture in. It holds that moisture level there, and your roots will still come up right up there. You'll just have that mulch to get through. It's like a mulch layer.
Right, like Abolished, does your mulch layer and your cover crops help do that too?
Can you guys hear me all right now?
Yeah. You sound
Oh,
good.
what was the question? I've been trying to fix my mic.
So, like, top watering growers like myself would argue that your SIP style doesn't adequately water like the top of the soil, so your roots don't grow up there as well. I'm sure you've heard the argument. Spartan was saying that he doesn't really run into it because of the way he mulches the top of his soil. Do your cover crops do the same thing?
When I had cover crop, yes, but now I use a real thick leaf mulch layer, and as long as you have that there, yeah, you'll have plenty of root growth underneath it. But if you don't have anything there, yeah, you won't see as much. The roots won't go to the very top, but they're still there. They're just a quarter inch down instead of all the way up to the top.
I'll tell you what, you take some worm castings, you throw them on the top dress of your soil, water it. I put a thing up on Instagram. It might be a few pictures back now, but I put a little top dressing of Detroit Nutrient Company worm castings on top of some plants, because they looked like they needed a kick, like they were just lagging or something. And I'm not kidding you, it was a day or two later, you could physically see the roots popping out of the top of the soil, like going after that worm casting, like just wanting to have all that goodness, Like, I'm sure it was a huge micro boost that helped a lot of things too, with the castings. But I amazed myself. I wasn't expecting results that quickly and that pronounced. Usually in organics, everything's slower, So when something like that, it really did surprise me.
was gonna say you wouldn't expect a top dress result that fast. You know, how quick do you usually see results, Scobo, when you add something like
It depends on what it is. It's like Bad Bunny. It's a 2-day, 3-day thing at the most, right, guys, that are using it right now? You're seeing it within about 48 hours. Here's what I would say. I would say that I try to buy the best quality worm casting that I can get my hands on, and I try to use as much of it as I can afford to. It's just your plants will really, really, really take off early in flower like that. And I just did it myself yesterday when I put 5 new plants into the bed. So top dress is your time to water down. You're pulling the oxygen that way. And at the same time, though, you have to remember, I'm not the science guy, but somebody told me at one point that the only part of the roots that really drink are the tips. So why are we watering the top when the tips are at the bottom? So you're going to have to either really know your pot size and know how much what you're trying to water in. So if you got a 7-gallon pot, you have to say, well, I have to give it exactly 2 gallons, or I'm not going to have enough sufficient runoff at the bottom, and I'm going to have a big buildup. So I'm not science, but science, somebody can step in with it.
you are right
Mostly-
with the root tips, but I think you'll find root tips all over the pot, in the top and in the bottom. So it's important to have proper moisture everywhere. But like they're saying, that's what it does in the forest. There's a mulch layer that's holding the moisture in the top of the soil all the time, and the plants and the trees are keeping the sun from beating all the moisture out of the soil too, just like our plants are doing. So I can see some how that all applies for sure.
Well, another thing that Abosh brought up on Wednesday on his show that I hadn't considered, but it 100% makes sense is, when he's throwing his leaves down, he's creating a mulch layer. Well, that mulch layer, as it sits, it starts to decompose. The microbes work on it. You might even get beneficial bugs or whatever in there. But also, it'll start breaking down and it'll turn into a humus layer. And humus layer is like creme de la creme, man. That's what you want. That's the black gold right there. That's better than worm castings. So, and as you water through that, you're just pushing that down. Anything that becomes water soluble just goes with the water and just pushes it down. So I'm really excited to start using my leaves as a mulch too. Yeah. Especially with the worms in there.
I've done it for a long time. It was one of the draws to doing the beds, is to be able to take all those sticks and dry them out completely and break them down. But when you're doing that, remember, your plant took something out of the soil to build itself. And when you take that off of the plant, why throw it in the garbage? Why not put it back into the beds for it to break back down into the elements that it took out of the soil? Because we know that's what it needs.
Well, it just depends, right? Because the reason why I don't do it, and maybe no one has explained this, but in cocoa, I don't have a bacterial system breaking stuff down in my soil. So if I go and drop a bunch of leaves on top of the soil in my pot, all I'm going to do is get a bunch of bugs in there that cause a problem, And
it's not that complicated. There's bacteria floating around right now everywhere.
Oh, there is, but
It'll break down.
it's not going to get broken down by the beneficial microbes that you've already inoculated your soil with. It's going to get broke down by whatever rogue stuff happens to find its way in my room. And when you're growing in a really controlled way, that's kind of a bad thing, right? Just an open sort of environment.
Oh, right. Yeah. You don't want, like you were saying earlier in the show, it's a completely different game. They're two different worlds. That's why when people have the idea of, I want to go from synthetic to organic, or I want to go the other way, organic to synthetic, and they end up doing something in between, when they start mixing the two things, I don't see a benefit in that. I in my thinking, I'll say, because I've never done it, to be honest, because I think that the plant's going to get used to eating or getting its food in either one form or the other. And that, if it's all kicking on organic and then all of a sudden you switch it up with some salty water and start killing off the microorganisms, which are basically the plant's stomachs, for lack of better terms, it's going to take a minute for it to switch over to absorbing those ionic particles or whatever. So, or at least confuse it and slow it down. So I would just like to, if you're going to do one thing, just go all in on one side. Try that. If it doesn't work for you, try the other way. Maybe that will work for you. But like for me, I think it's absolutely fun to grow organically at home and go to work and completely do something different. It's not the same thing, it's a completely different world. We're like what you're doing, Sequence. We're like, it's synthetic, but we're trying to keep it clean as possible. And, that's how you're successful in that environment. Now, maybe I don't have to be as clean in my organic, but I take kind of offense to people thinking that organic's really dirty, because I try to keep my organic just as clean as I do at work. It's just, the soil might be considered dirty. Those leaves, I don't see that as decaying matters per se, or a moldy mess. I see that as, oh, that's just nutrients breaking down. So maybe it's I got a different set of glasses on or something.
Well, it's all controlled, right? It's just controlled for a different purpose and in a different way.
Right. Yeah. I think it's maximizing. You're maximizing each way of growing. You got to go all in on that way of growing to maximize those results. If you kind of half do this, then half do that, you're going to half get a half result, So I don't know. That's just my theory on that whole thing. But I love, I come off as an organic patriot or whatever, and I do think that organic is by far the best way to go. But I would be a hypocrite to, talk down on synthetic, since I go to work and grow synthetically all day long. You can totally get good results synthetically too. I mean, you just got to be responsible with how you're doing things.
I think that's a good way to segue over to Red.
Yeah, Red's been hitting or holding it down in the chat most of this show, and I agree. Red, would you like to speak to kind of how you keep from overnutrient, overdoing it on your plants? When you look at salt growers, most of the time you look on Instagram and you see a bunch of burned leaf tips, in my experience. And I'm a salt grower, and I take a lot of pride in the fact that when you look at my plants, you don't see that generally. It happens. And the reason why you see that is because that damage never goes away. When you see a salt grower, burn their leaf tips, that's a permanent thing. Like the tips of your leaves are dead. So as soon as you see it on somebody's plants, or if you never see it on their plants, that's an indicator that they never push nutrients to their plants, and their plants were healthy the whole time. So I think it's a pretty good indicator of like plant quality and grower quality, maybe. What do you think about these things, Red Setter?
I totally agree. For me to mitigate leaf tip burn, I try to run a lower EC, especially later in flower, mid to late in flower. I'll drop my EC down pretty much what I veg at. And I may even start to flush slightly earlier if I do start to see maybe some leaf burn towards the end of flower. But to maybe before I get into that, I did want to just piggyback onto what Spartan was saying and talk about, I don't think I would be able to run something like heavy worm castings or anything in my full synthetic setup. I think that I would burn my leaves. It would at least take me a long time to be able to dial that in. And once I did dial it in, I could probably get away with maybe using less nutrients. But like I said, whatever microbes or whatever's going on within the worm castings or any kind of organics that I would try to add to my synthetics, I'm just going to burn it out with the salts. I do use some microbes. I do a microbial inoculant. But other than that, I'm sorry, not an inoculant. I use a microbial stimulant. I use Tribus. And from what I understand, Tribus is better suited for synthetic style growing as opposed to maybe Mammoth P. And I haven't personally tried Mammoth P, but I have seen good results with Tribus. So I kind of tend to stick that route. But that's kind of as far as the organic spectrum that I go indoors. I do run like a sterile setup. I shower before going in my rooms. I wear slippers, different shoes inside my grow rooms than I do outside my grow rooms. And I constantly go in and out of those shoes every time I go in and out of a doorway. That being said, outdoors, I run organics. I was fortunate enough to be able to attend the regenerative conference. Quick plug to those guys. Shout out. I guess Spartan Grower was there. Too bad we didn't get a chance to meet there, but it's good to know that that information is also in this group otherwhere. I try to take those philosophies as best that I can into my synthetic setup. And by doing that, I try to run like as little to zero waste as possible. So back to what you were talking about, Sequence, is when I'm running those low ECs, I'm getting yields and I'm getting results because I'm running low runoff. So if I were to probably test my runoff would probably be in the higher EC range. My pH might even be a little lower. So you want to run even maybe a higher pH towards the end of flower as well, maybe the 6.3, 6.4 range, because you're going to have a little bit of salt buildup within your substrate, and that'll help kind of mitigate that. Your best results are always going to be by testing your runoff and then dialing your inputs from there. If you can get a pH probe to test your media, that's also the best bet. But as far as ppms in, ppms out, you can kind of take an average by checking them both. So that's how I mitigate that for being regenerative. I save all my stalks, I save all my stems, I save all my leaves, I turn it all into compost. I try not to throw any of that away. I think that stuff's just gold in my eyes, and I'd be foolish to just toss it. As far as the my roots and that stuff goes, I can compost the roots, but I do toss the media. I try not to put all of those salts and synthetics in my organic beds out in my vegetable garden or in my outdoor cannabis garden. Cannabis being a bioaccumulator is going to take up everything in the ground, and everything outdoors is just as valuable, and I want to turn all of that into oils and medicine. So I totally value the organic side of things. Just at the same time, I do feel that that you can get results and you can get healthy, safe results by using synthetic based nutrients. And with that, I'll stop and maybe we can continue. Thanks, Sequence.
No, it's cool, and I think it speaks a lot when you really think about it. Old man, your indoor is synthetic and your outdoor is organic, right? Same or
No,
something? No,
I'm all organic.
all organic.
Yeah.
My indoor is synthetic, my outdoor is organic. Red Setter is the same way. I think it's interesting that when we have the sun and the outdoors and that option, we tend to lean that way. You don't see anybody growing with bottles outside of their house,
Well, I have. I haven't done it, but I've seen it.
Yeah. I just could never think of mixing bottles and doing nutrients outdoor,
Yeah, you're just pouring it.
Yeah.
Just filtering straight through all the way. There's nothing stopping it.
Yeah, it seems so wrong.
I got a couple plants on my deck, and on those ones I am running the same nutrients in, but those are just a little testing hydroponic setup. I even did it in I did ProMix and in the nutrients that I run in some tomatoes and zucchini and some pepper plants. And the zucchini ended up dying on me, but I'm getting some success on some tomatoes and some peppers. So believe it or not, you can get hydroponic results in pretty much all areas of the vegetable spectrum. So it's kind of cool. But I only do that on my deck because underneath my deck is it not being used for food growing or anything like that. So
That's cool. I take all, like you were saying, when you were saying you save all your sticks and your stems, and I just did a post on Instagram about it, but we just built raised beds, and we throw all the sticks down first, right on top of the grass. We don't even snuff the grass out. Sticks down, and then after the sticks, all the used soil that I've been dumping in a compost pile, we put that out over the top of that, and then next time I mow the grass, I'll bag it, and then I'll put all that grass down on the top of it to kind of just seal it in. And we had one bed that we ran this year vegetables in, and we had 2 zucchini plants, and I think we've gotten easily 50, 55 zucchini. It's just ridiculous, the production. And we've gotten literally nothing but water. Then we got tomatoes just kicking now. They're just starting to. I don't know why it's taking so late to start turning red, but they're starting to finally ripen up, and there's just so many tomatoes. It's just ridiculous.
My tomatoes are about done. That's interesting.
Well, our zucchini were towering so far over them. I think they were shaded for most of the time. So now that the zucchini's pretty much done, it's still producing a few, but we've taken a lot of the leaves off because this is the time of year powdery mildew always shows up on the zucchini. And I don't want that stuff around blowing around my house.
What's going on, fellas? I've been making salsa for a month now. What are you doing out there? That stuff's still producing.
Hey, I don't got autoflower tomatoes. Sorry, dude.
My tomatoes just started turning red too. Maybe a week ago, I just started being able to make some salsa myself and some pico. So,
Although there are tomato cultivars just the same as cannabis ones, so there's a lot of different varieties, and they all, I'm sure, flowered at different times and all of that stuff. About you have to bring me some salsa.
I planted tomatoes this year as a distractionary for my outdoor cannabis grow. I mean, it's fenced and stuff, my grow, but I planted some tomato plants outside of it, and the deer love them. They ate them to the ground right off the rip, and then they grew back, and then now they've been just picking off tomatoes little by little. So they're totally not messing with my other garden, which is sweet. And I'll probably get a couple half-eaten tomatoes out of the deal. It's a good one.
They're going to come out after all the tomatoes are gone and eat the shit out of your plants. That's what's going to happen.
Sleeping out there. It won't be long. I'll be sleeping out there. You know what I mean? The last 3 weeks, 2 weeks of my grow, I'm always outside. You know, you got to be.
Pitch a tent. It's camping season.
Hang some bells out there and shit.
Yeah, when I was over there, we were talking, and he said something about seeing a lot of deer out there. And I turned around and instantly looked at his outdoor garden. I was like, dude, they love cannabis, man. I'm telling you, you gotta watch out for those guys.
Eagle, what do you have to go back to on that the salt based? What do you do over there?
I'm a salt grower myself, but I kind of disagree a little bit with Spartan growing there about not mixing some kind of organics in with your root base. Your root zone is so important. If you have your funguses in there and everything, it's like a biodefense in there that, you know, if you can have a little bit of organic mess going in there, fungi, organisms, you know, whatnot, the healthier the better. My question would be best to Red Setter is there a such thing as a full synthetic line? And if so, how do you keep your roots as healthy as they should be just by a massive oxygen supply?
yeah, you know, from my understanding, I'm like the powdered nutrients, I would imagine would be like a full salt or a full synthetic line. I'm sorry, what was the second part of that question, Eagle? One more time.
If you can go fully synthetic, how are you keeping your roots as healthy as they can be just by a forced oxygen supply? I know.
Yeah, I've done that for a long time, is without using any kind of microbes or anything like that, is I only run the synthetics. And I mean, as far as health goes, the plants stay healthy, the yields stay strong, and you know, from what I see is that I just get better growth, but I don't get, let's say, any negative results by using only synthetics, if you will.
I'm a full salt grower myself, but even so, I'm adding mycos and azos. So right there, aren't you, going somewhat organic and that starting the organic process there? Because if anything, it's eating sugars and putting out, stuff the plant needs there. And if anything else, I imagine it's eating my cocoa, breaking my cocoa down.
Yeah.
Can I jump in real quick?
I run now. Sorry, Spartan, to cut you off. The cocoa I run now is it actually does have some humus and things like that in it. Previous to that, I did run. I ran Canna Cocoa, straight Canna Cocoa, no perlite, no additives, and just my 2-part mix. I didn't even use Epsom salts, believe it or not. I only ran just a straight 2-part, which was the fertilizer mix and like a calcium nitrate base. So there was the fertilizer base and then a calcium nitrate backup with it. Basically the Jax 321 line. And so on that is what I'm assuming to be fully synthetic, just because I haven't heard otherwise that it contains any organic, maybe aside from maybe the way that some of the salts are derived. But from my understanding, if I'm only running it into cocoa, I was able to pull, good yields. I was getting two units of light on single endeds, but when I did try to move and step up my production with CO2, with double-ended lighting and things like that, I was having negative results. So I think that there is something to say to production-wise and also at scale. If you're going to try using fully synthetic, it may not be something that you want to do if you're really trying to push the limits. Because I'm getting better results using the different media, which has, like I said, that humic is basically Tupper by Royal Gold, and on top of that, I'm using the Tribus. So, I'd say that with those, maybe I'm getting a little bit of microbial activity, but I'm not using ProMix, so I don't think that there's any kind of additional mycorrhizae or anything. So that's something that I did want to introduce or learn to introduce. So I'm hoping maybe we can help each other out with that.
So I didn't really state it right, I guess, Eagle. What I guess I should have said, it is not worth the money you would spend. I don't want to say that in synthetics, when you add an organic option, that it's not beneficial to the plant in any way. What I'm saying is the next time you water it back with a synthetic, you're damaging, or at the very least stressing, all those organic microorganisms that come into contact with that salty water. It basically will, once the water goes away and the salt's left behind and a microorganism gets near that salt, it sucks all the water away from that microorganism and it kills it. Now, a dead microorganism still has a little bit of value. Any of the nutrients that they had broken down or in the process of breaking down will become plant available possibly, but they'll no longer be able to reproduce and still make an effect. So yeah, throwing a teacup of water on a fire is a benefit, but it's not worth the cost, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, in my opinion. Yes, you can put premium gas in my car, but for the way I use it, I just use regular gas because it's my car.
Yeah, this is the chaos kind of theory stuff that I'm talking about, not to unbalance things, to stay consistent. Because if you're going from organic to synthetic, it's either going to be a carbon molecule or a salt molecule, and it's going to be most likely a different type of microbe each time that eats that. So if you're switching up the food each time, you're causing unbalance, and it'd be better to stick to one, so that way that colony goes strong, that's going to eat the same food that you keep throwing in there. That's just the way I feel on it.
In situations where you're not reusing your soil, you're resetting your plants every time, you're not going to probably see a huge difference because the plant's really still a short-term plant in the whole scheme of things. So I could see, in a synthetic setting where you wouldn't really, at work we're using Mycos. I'm sure it has some benefit, but it's also getting damaged every time there's salt buildup around it. We actually don't feed very heavy, so maybe we get that benefit of that Mycos on transplant for longer periods of time. I don't know, but still in my mind, I'm thinking by harvest, there's no Mycos left in there.
Yeah, my understanding is that phosphorus specifically kills microbial life in your soil. And to answer your question, Eagle, about oxygen, our solution to that in cocoa is just to water more often. We're giving our plants fresh water like up to 5-6 times a day, so oxygen is not an issue at all. But because of that, in cocoa, our media is all basically saturated all the time with water that is rich with nutrients that literally kills microbes. And as far as I know, even Mammoth P doesn't advertise as a synthetic microbial product anymore, and they used to push it pretty hard. So I'm not sure. I would love to see somebody do that, use microbes next to their non-microbes side by side, and see if there actually is results to that. But I'm not sure you're going to see a huge advantage to using those products.
I did a Mammoth P one, but it was in organics, and I saw a big increase in.
And I would agree in organics, because they say it allows more phosphorus to be available for your plant out of a
But I would still imagine in a hydroponic setting even that it would help, because for as long as those microbes can live, they were specifically selected to solubilize or make available to the plant available potassium. Is that what, am I right? Yeah. And so yeah, as long as they live, and especially if you're going to water it in every watering, I can see where it could be a benefit. But
I'm curious in how long it's going to water or live, right? When you're mixing it in water with phosphorus and salt nutes.
Oh, usually
or it
it's,
even makes it in your.
Well, you're also adding in sugars, which they live off of as well. The plant intakes sugars too, but mycos do as well. They're living off that sugar. So if you're even putting a synthetic sugar base, whatever in there to sweeten your plants, the mycos should be able to live off that. And they are self-governing. If you keep watering them, I water them in every couple of weeks just to kind of repopulate things and keep things going, keep things healthy. But they are self-populating. If there's too many in the pot, they're going to kill themselves off. But as far as just killing them off with the salts, well, you're using too much salts, and it's building up in your soils if you're killing them off with salts. If not, then you should be able to survive from the sugars you're feeding with. I would think.
Just die from salts. It's not from having too much salt. They just die from the salt. Just period.
just being in the presence of it, or whatever.
Just having that salty environment, even at like 500 ppm, or is what I'm using, is too much for the microbial life.
But usually in a synthetic setting, you're not adding microbes with your feed water. Usually when you're adding microbes, it's either going to be a dry powder at transplant, or it's going to be watered in with, like what Ego was saying, with a molasses is the most popular one, but any kind of a sugar source, a food source form, and you're not mixing that with a bunch of chemicals. Maybe CalMag, I guess, maybe.
Mammoth is supposed to be used every watering, for example. So that'd be watering and every other.
Hydroponics, yeah. Well, hydroponics is, it's usually in like a res or something, but.
So that's what I'm speaking to. If you have Mammoth P in a gallon of water that's mixed with all your other nutrients like it's supposed to be, how long does it live in there? How long does it live in your plant when the entire goal of a cocoa media is to hold nutrient water and surround that bacteria, surround all of the roots? It seems like the exact environment to be negative to bacterial life. And that's what the studies show as far as hydroponics go.
Again, I've tested out a few of these products. I've ran Mammoth P, and I've tried the fish shit, as well as the mycos and azoles of the extremes. That fish shit, I'm here to tell you, when I transplanted into that cocoa, which I reuse, I don't know if I left that out, but I do reuse my cocoa, so I'm still keeping it going somewhat there. When I use that fish shit and I transplanted with that, the microbes have exploded, and they were actually coming outside the pot. At that time, I was using the fabric pots, and the microorganisms that was going in that pot was crazy. I mean, the pot started kind of turning green. You could tell there was a lot of fungus and shit going in there. And that was one of my best runs. Even feeding salts on top of, that base, it was a great run.
And on that note,
interesting product. It's a little bit of a different
time.
It's a little bit of a different deal, right? Because it's adding a lot of micronutrients as well as microbes and everything else. Abolished is using fish shit, and he's got some results. He's doing a little bit of a test right now with that product. And I have a sample here that I want to mess with in my grow as well and see what kind of results I get.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Because like the whole grow, I was kind of like, man, this plant's got the smallest buds and whatnot. But then once I actually got to the trim and the dry and all that, something like really interesting we noticed in the actual dry itself was although the buds were small when they were harvested, they weren't that small for like a dried bud, and they didn't lose very much size once they were dried, and they kept their weight. Shockingly, I haven't finished all 3 plants, but right now the fish shit one is ahead.
Well, think about this as I get high and my non-scientific mind is no longer working. You know, think about, first of all, aquaponics we know from, well, hell, at that Regenerative conference, Steve Reisner, Aquaponics Steve, was talking about how the diversity of microbes in an aquaponics setting, they said in the worst aquaponics setting, it will have more microbe diversity than in the very best soil. I think that's how he said it. And so you got a much wider range of microbes available to you in this fish shit. And then also, where have these microbes evolved to live in? Saltwater. So I could see why they would be so beneficial in that kind of a system.
You know, that's a point that I never really considered, the saltwater aspect, and to that. I don't know if everyone can hear my torch, but that's really a good point. Thanks, Spartan.
Yeah, I never thought about that either. That's kind of a little bit of a mind blow because there's plenty of organic matter in the ocean, and that's salty as fuck.
Well, it's just like that product that you recommended to Top Dress on what was it again? The BioLive. I was reading I bought a box of that today too, and I read the back, and it's just dehydrated seawater. So they just take the water out. So that's a lot.
Right, like that C90 stuff I have.
Yeah, C90, same kind of thing.
Right.
I was going to buy that before the C90. That was kind of expensive, though, wasn't it?
You know, I got it.
Not for Hermit.
And I haven't actually even used it. So I don't know. I put a little bit on this current run, but non-determinant results.
What the hell, Hermit? We're gonna have to make some try amendments, I guess.
Still a little cooking, man. I've got a couple kiddie pools cooking. So
Cut me in or cut it out.
My dad got me. I'm on another level now.
That's all you needed, bro. Just a little something. You probably also like have no kind of smell receptors left after sitting there trimming for the last 3 days either. That's all you
dude, that's a concern, I guess. I'm gonna get ready. I gotta work in the morning, right? Dude. So I'm gonna wash some clothes tonight because I'm confident that my entire house is very, very strong smelling at the moment. I've got buds right behind me, curing right here. There's
you think bed. You are Abolished Farms?
Yeah. I won't disclose his curing location or his drying location, but it's not too much different than mine. I didn't dry them in my room, but I've got a bunch of jars curing in here, and it'll be really pungent, and it's easy to forget because you get nose blind to that stuff. And I don't want to go to work and sit in my production meeting just smelling like the dankest dank that I have that I'm working on all the time.
I want to jump in real quick and get this out before it scrolls past on chat, but your boy Roy Boy said that fish shit isn't made from fish shit, it's made from crab shells sourced from, I can't pronounce it, Massachusetts, or at least 2 years ago it was. I talked to the rep myself, and they assured me and walked me through the whole process of how it's fish.
There is another product that is crab shells that are ground up though, so maybe two things are being mixed up somehow. I'm not sure.
In fact, a cool thing they showed me on the bottle, because I asked them, I said, well, if these are live microbes, how the hell are they staying alive in this packaging? If you look at the packaging of the fish shit bottle, the cap itself has like a little micromembrane, like one-way air filter thing on it. I never noticed before. And we sat there and talked about that for like 10 minutes. There's some crazy shit they have to do to get that fish shit.
It's really nice that when you go to a cannabis event, you can talk to a rep or something like that. And it's not usually a rep. It's the guy that owns the company and knows every fucking thing that you could ever ask him. It's like the guy. When you go to the booth for Kyle Gardner, or you go to the booth for Dab Smiths, you talk to the guy that made the wax. You're not talking to the guy that works for the guy that works for the guy. You know, it's
No, because cannabis has become legitimate business now. People have come out of the shadows. People have been in the community for years and been intaking all of this knowledge in. And this is their final opportunity to be like, hey, man, okay, look, I'm going to do this. And I know that there are people on the panel, and I know that there are people in the chat, and there are going to be people that are listening to this that it's going to apply to you. This is your chance. You know, this is the gold rush.
well, and it shows you the passion, right? The owner of the company is the guy that's sitting at the booth in the sun or in the rain, and he's really grinding it out, shaking hands and talking to people and handing out samples and putting in the groundwork and truly supporting his own product rather than just be signing a check and putting some people there to do it for him.
You know,
I think
that's
it
Bad
shows a
Bunny.
lot. Yeah, it shows a lot to me. Bad Bunny is exactly like that.
Easy swap pots.
Yep, easy swap pots. You know, Eagle, when I started talking to him when he was repping seeds and standing out and literally holding down a canopy in a storm, like doing what you got to do to move the industry forward. And
Shaking hands, man.
yeah, those people are willing to do it, and they'll sit there and tell you all the details about their new lighting technology, their new seed project, or this or that, and you get all that info because they're the person that did it. It's not all secondhand, like, oh, you know, my boss did this, I think, and you know, all that stuff. It's really, really cool. Tight knit.
Yeah, and that's kind of like a pro tip if you're going to these events like the Cannabis Cups and things like that. If you see a booth that really does interest you, and you might not know what the hell it is, just go stop and talk to them, because I've gotten handed so much free product just because you're not the person that's just walking up, looking what's free, grabbing the slap and walking away. You actually stop and have legitimate questions about their products and even act halfway interesting. They usually hook you up. And I'm not saying, you know, be fake and just to get free stuff, but I'm saying if you're interested in anything whatsoever, don't be afraid to ask, because you're probably making that person's day because they've just seen 14 people walk up to the booth, not say a word, grab a lighter and walk away, you know?
Not only that, think about this, you know, like my wife getting a break from hearing about cannabis, she loves that. She's so tired of hearing me talk about, you know, sublimation and all this shit. She doesn't care. I mean,
Your new fucking project you got in the dryer.
right, you know, what new strains I'm popping, all this kind of stuff. Like, she's supportive, but it's like, you know, having somebody to nerd out with is what we all really desire, right? I mean, God, getting together with Spartan this weekend was just like flowing, you know, just stuff. It was awesome, you know, and it continued till the very end, you know, it was amazing.
You never want to leave those people. Like, you know, I never want to walk away. When it was you, me, and Red Setter at the Clio Cup, and it's like midnight, and I was like, all right, I gotta drive back. And I go to the car, you know, and the famous story, the car didn't start or whatever. But you smoked 4 more joints with Red Setter after I left, just the two of you, because we never want to leave. You know,
Dude, how do you think that makes me feel? I have to go back to work. I have to go to these events and then get the hell out of there so I can go work a full fucking shift. But it's like totally worth it because you get that like recharge battery thing. You have some great laughs. You walk away with some great new knowledge. You meet new friends. You come home with new gear. Like, what the fuck is not to like about it, man?
Right. Well, I hadn't talked to Red Setter since we actually met when DJ Short came to town and he did a presentation and stuff, and we went out with DJ afterwards and hung out and stuff, and it was awesome. And that was the only time I'd ever met him. And the whole time, you know, since then, I don't know, 1.5 years or whatever, maybe probably about that, I've been wanting to hang out with that dude again.
You know, for a hermit, you sure do know a lot of people and hang out with a lot of folks.
Yeah, he's linking me up with he's like, oh yeah, these are my friends in this band in Norway. And I'm like, oh, okay. This hermit guy.
He He scared the crap out of me when he said that he knew he was there when I bought my Rosa berry. I was like, how do you know me, man? I'm in chat. I'm a little. I didn't at the time. I didn't even have an icon. I was just like the YouTube uh
A little ghost guy.
Ghost guy, yeah, a little blue ghost guy that they got on there.
Honestly, you were like one of the very first people I had ever met, you know, in the growing scene. Like meeting DJ and stuff. That was my first foray into, you know, buying seeds personally from somebody. I'd never been to a cannabis cup or anything. So meeting somebody who was sort of local, who was easygoing and cool to talk to, I was pretty into it, you know. So I don't know. And I don't actually meet very many people, you know. I really just hang out with you guys on here. That's pretty much it.
I love fucking with you.
Yeah, that was one of the few events that I've been to. I've been through not a couple hash bash events. Like I said, fortunately, I was able to make it to the Regen conference. Shout out to my mentor. He hooked me up with the tickets for that for my birthday. He's a great guy. He's also just a fantastic dude in this industry. And you know, hash bash and the DJ Short seminars. That's about it. I was a couple years ago able to make it to a couple cannabis cups, but just like you, old man, I'm kind of a hermit myself. I'm in the grow room all the time, which is great because, you know, just like all you guys that see your grows, you all have some beautiful plants, and you're not going to get those results without spending time in your grow room. So I know we all have the same personalities, or at least lifestyles in that regard. So, you know, it's thanks for bringing me on board. I just want to say that.
Yeah, it's the best. You don't get on a show, you know, like we're all using our free time right now, you know, to be on a show. You don't do that unless you're invested, unless you care, unless you either want to get better at it or you truly enjoy talking to people about it. Like, old man, it's like my favorite thing to do is bullshit with some other person about what I'm doing in my grow room, you know. It's the best part. And
yeah, man, it was great meeting old man there, because he's like, other than like my best friend who's my mentor in this, I don't have anybody else really to talk to about growing stuff. You know, it's my fiance, and like old man said with his wife, you know, they don't want to hear about it all the time. It drive them nuts. Poor girls, man. They put up with us there. So shout out to the women, you know, and all the wives of cannabis, and all the girlfriends of cannabis growers, and all the maybe husbands of the women that are cannabis growers, and everybody that really has to deal with that. Shout out to everybody in this scene. And, you know, old man, I'm glad we got to reconnect in this forum and in this way. So I'm glad I got to connect with all you guys. So
I think that's a good time to segue into what we wanted to talk about next, was the upcoming shows in the state. Who's got info on that for us?
well, there's the Summer Burnout show this weekend that we're going to go to on Saturday. I'm looking up.
High Times has its Cannabis Cup coming up in October. Well, it's not called the Cannabis Cup officially anymore. It's called something different at the Russell. Maybe somebody else could fill in the name of what the new thing is. But Grow Green has a cultivation event going on, I believe, in the beginning of October as well. I'm not sure if I doubt it'll be any type of consumption, at least recreational. But you know, I'm sure that they're gonna have lots of growing products. At least it might be a great place for growers to get together.
Right.
Shout out Bad Bunny. They're gonna be up there. I'm gonna try to hit that up to give me some Bad Bunny.
High Times event is called the High Times Cannabis Bazaar. It's October 12th and 13th at the Russell.
I'm gonna go on record saying I won't be there.
It's hard to make all the events, right? With the you know, all the entry fees and all the travel and all of that stuff. But I'm gonna try to be there. We'll see what happens.
Where is Grow Green at, guys?
Whitmore Lake. I couldn't tell you the address, but it's Whitmore Lake.
There's another local plant in Clio, Croptoberfest. I think it's at Auto City in October too.
I like Clio.
I like Clio too. I was hoping that we'd get big enough to get MIS, really blow it out.
We need to.
Even if they just got the field outside of MIS where people park, and just did canopies out there, you could do a whole event. It's acres and acres of just
Holy shit.
remote grass. You
We're,
know,
we're local to Irish Hills. I mean, we operate in the Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti. Our patients are in the Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti area, but our farm is actually out in the Irish Hills area, and that's kind of where we were hoping to get licensed at.
That's
Man,
cool.
we immediately started doing events out in, at MIS, and in our area was able to get us licensed, because I'd love to be able to do events.
That's dope because I'm in Jackson, man, not too far
Oh,
away.
that's great. Yeah. Your football's throw away from Irish Hills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
the Croptoberfest event that Eagle talked about is October 5th and 6th at the Auto City Speedway in Clio.
I think I'm going to that one.
Yeah, I'll probably try to make. I don't know. Yeah, that's too far out for me to make a plan, but I think I could probably make that.
$30.
Who all's gonna be making it this weekend? All of us?
I'll be there.
Me and Miss C will be there. Where we?
I'm gonna have packages for people, even people in the chat. I guess if you come up to me, I'll be wearing my Michigan Bros Grow Show shirt. If you come up to me, I'm gonna have all my homegrown. I'll be sharing it with everyone that I can find. I'm really proud of it. So stop by. All I do is smoke the whole time. Ask any of these guys. So let's get it.
It's a get down. If you find us, just come sit at our table with us and
Don't fall asleep. Good luck.
That's why I enjoy hanging out with you, Sequence. You share my passion in smoking. I have yet to see you go, no, I've had enough.
It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. I'm good.
The big question is going to be who's going to be the guy on the couch this event.
Who you bringing? Who you bringing?
Whoever Sequence brings, yeah, that's it.
New guy is going to be the coma guy.
I'm trying to bring a new guy, but he has a tolerance. We'll see.
Well, he passed out like an hour into it. That doesn't mean shit. What if he's got double the talent? He's going to make 2 hours instead of 9?
No, the guy I'm trying to bring this time is my best friend. He's the guy. So every year, I don't know if you guys do any dumb shit. I do some dumb shit. And I wouldn't consider this dumb, but it's a fun way to end the night anyway. Every year for my birthday, I try to do my age in dabs. We started this when I was like 26. And this is my friend that I do this with. So, you know, like when I was 27, we've got a famous story. We were having a fire. We did 27 dabs, and I was out sitting by the fire, and I was 27 dabs elevated, you'd say. and he comes out and he goes, "You want to smoke a joint?" And I famously told him no. That was the last time I could remember saying no. But I was way past my my limit, and I didn't have a bad time. I was just man, I was like literally seeing colors, and it was really crazy.
Well, now you know to get like every 5th dab, throw in a CBD dab.
What I did notice, shout out to Dab Smiths for the Herkel. I'm out of it now. When I was trimming all of this bud, I was smoking like crazy, right? And I had a bunch of friends over to help, so we trimmed really fast. But I noticed that if you smoked a bunch, you know, you'd get high, but then you would stop and you could just smoke and smoke and smoke, right? Nothing would happen. And you just stay kind of high and you never get the buzz again. Well, I'd just do a big dab of the CBD and go back down and then smoke one joint again and then be like high school high all over again. So I just reset it over and over again one day. That was really cool.
That happens with that CB Diesel I have. I think it's like a 1-to-1, which the clone didn't take, so I lost it. But I'm not even sad about it because I got that blueberry coming up, so whatever. But but I would find that too is like I'd hit that. I call it hitting the wall. I hit that wall where you know that any more weed that you're smoking, you're just fucking wasting. And but I found that if I'm at that point and I smoke that 1-to-1, then I can just get ripped. It breaks through that wall, like pushes you through.
Yeah, it definitely gives me one more incentive to put another high CBD strain or a 1-to-1 in my grow.
I smoke that Rosaberry all the time. It's or I usually mix it in with everything else. Like right now, I'm smoking Rosaberry mixed with PB Souffle. That's what I was just puffing on right now. other than that, it's a great blend. Anything CBD. Every now and then, I even like to puff on a CBD vape pen. It's not too bad, I have noticed though that you almost need to have like almost twice as much of the THC for pain relief. Like if you're doing just CBD, I feel like you really need to add that THC to it to really get good pain relief. I was noticing that today when, my tooth was kind of bugging me. I just tried smoking the rosaberry and it wasn't that great. But then when I smoked something else, I had some THC in it. I noticed that the entourage from the two of those together, my tooth felt better, in no time. It was an interesting thought that I kind of came to, or a conclusion that I came to today. So,
Dude, that's awesome, man. That's like makes a lot of sense to me because I've had like all missed experiences with CBD for my back pain. And I'm like, man, this is just not like, I know what it's supposed to do, but for some reason I'm either not getting like the right cut or something like that. But that makes sense because I try to be all like serious about it and shit instead of casual. Be like, okay, my back's really fucking killing me. So I've been holding on to this Canatonic for like 3 weeks now. And so when I smoke it, I'm like, man, that just really didn't do it for me. So good looking out.
Yeah, try mixing it with something heavier, or if you got some CBD oil or something. Sometimes what I'll do is when I'll dose with my Simpson oil, well, my Fico, full extract cannabis oil, I'll also dose with some CBD oil, maybe to mitigate some of the high that I'm going to get off of the high THC oil. That way I can put a lot more THC in my body without blasting off maybe during the day when I got to get a lot of stuff done, or putting me on the couch and making me go to sleep, most importantly.
My favorite high of all with cannabis is Fico. I love it. It's such a slow ramp up. You don't even hardly notice it's hitting you. And the next thing you know, you're just asking yourself why you're so high. and then that lasts for quite a long time. And then you come back down, and the pain relief that comes with it, you sleep like a baby on it. And I just think it's important, like what you were saying with the whole entourage effect. I think it also goes the way you consume. So like when I had patients, or with my wife's patients now, I'll often, if they say, well, I smoked that and it didn't really help my whatever, we'll say back. I'll say, well, try this edible, or try this edible and then try to smoke. And getting all those different cannabinoids in their different forms and plugging into each receptor a different way, you just got to unlock that key. That's kind of how I look at it in my mind. So, you just find the right medicine for you. And
yep. And that's what I'm doing. Is Eagle gave me the blueberry quintessa seeds. And so I looked them up online because when he handed them to me, he was like, I've been holding on to these. I think these are really going to help you. So I looked them up, and I was surprised to see that it is a good combination of a pretty balanced CBD to THC ratio. And it specifically has been said to target back pain. So, and then the fact that it's blueberry is like just icing on the cake for me, because that's like my good mood shit. So I've been sitting here going for the last 2 days. I have 2 like little Lane boxes. I don't know if anybody knows what those are. Like the Lane cedar chest, back in the day, they used to make these little tiny miniature ones that they would give kids as like graduation gifts in the 60s and shit. And it would have like on the inside, I don't have it here with me. Anyway, I have all kinds of seeds in it. So I've been pawing through it for like the last day and a half going, what do I want to pop? What do I want to pop? So I've really been keep coming back to that one. So thank you, Eagle. That's going to be next, man. I appreciate that. I'm going to do that tonight.
Thank you, Eagle, for that too. Yeah, I got 2 already wet today. I'm excited.
You guys won't be disappointed there. And as far as the CBD goes, I agree 100%. It has to be 1-to-1. The CBD works as a kind of a blocker, if you ask me, and then the THC works better for inflammation and to take the pain away. It has to be a combination. And it almost bugs me that they don't push that or tell people that when they're pushing this CBD, because I'm afraid there's going to be thousands and thousands of people out there that go out there and purchase this stuff, try it, and get negative effects, not just because it didn't have the THC in it, but it was not. It was an inferior product to begin with. It was just some, third press oil or whatever. If you can buy it at a gas station, I would tend to just stay away from it. Just stay away from it and go to a good source. Try something that's accredited, full spectrum, hopefully 1-to-1, and then make an assessment from there, please. And just stay away from some of this information that goes on from that.
I agree with you completely. I don't know why somebody would go to a gas station and buy some CB oil there when they wouldn't buy a sandwich there. Be careful with what you're putting into your body. Does anybody know about the vape cartridge stuff that's going around? Vitamin E acetate or something like that? It's making people sick now.
Yeah, the only thing I heard is that it was tied to gray market or whatever, and it wasn't, bought from any dispensary. But
actually, one of them
happened.
One of them was from a dispensary.
Yep.
I don't think that was the death one. That was just one of the severe ones that hospitalized them, right? Oh, it was a death.
I'm not sure if it was or not, but
yeah, because he was doing both, right? And they're starting to blame it on that vitamin E and the nicotine cigarettes.
So I would be interested in seeing what the lab testing and what the state regulation is going to do, like probably immediately, right? Probably require some sort of testing for vitamin E on carts now.
I would
probably weren't even testing for it.
Unless they're like a good distillate or something like that, a rosin stick. I wouldn't take the P&G. I'm not sure the scientific name of that. It's what they use it for is to thin out the oil so the vape pen can actually burn it. That stuff's horrible for it.
Well, these are different. These ones are different. These aren't PGVG even. I mean, that'll make you sick, but not even to that level. That was in vape stuff for years. People were fine. These people are adding vitamin E acetate to really shitty distillate and to thicken it up, and that's what's making people sick. And I'm not even sure that they had a way to test for it because it's not one of the things that comes up when they're looking for residual solvents and all of that stuff. I don't think it was on anybody's radar. Somebody just found a cheap way to cut some oil and put it in carts. And
so you just took away my only hope in a good pen. So now I'm just right back to just stay away from them.
Live rosin. Live rosin's probably the only one that I would honestly trust. And it goes back to the same reason why we all grow. You're not going to trust any flower more than you're going to trust the one that you grew yourself because you knew what went into it, right? And
make your own pussy sticks, because this is something we talked about for many weeks on this show, not just the e-cigarette part, the neem oil and different kind of concentrates once they get into your whatever your carts. But we actually looked up some numbers. And it's a little crazy, guys. In like 33 states, they're saying as of Friday, we have 450 people with afflicted illnesses and 5 additional deaths.
And I see the appeal of carts. I don't think carts are going to go away, but I would definitely advise people to stay away from them for a while until they get sorted out. If there's 450 people that are sick from carts right now, I'm not taking the risk, that's for sure. Just because it's more convenient and, I can puff the cart while I'm watching my kid play soccer or something. I'm good on it for a while.
Well, it's not even the source product, it's the cartridge itself. I mean, they can be inferior in the metals and the ceramics that they're using.
That has happened with lead poison or lead contamination and heavy metal contamination is with fake cartridges bought in bulk from sources that are not properly testing their stuff too.
Unfortunately, that's big business already at its best. We're already trying to use our waste products and whatnot to make these oils and whatnot. But then you get an opportunity to cheapen your product up some by using an inferior cartridge, it draws somebody in that's trying to sell 100,000 of them or 1,000 of them. They're going to buy cheap and try to make as much money as they can. Unfortunately, for some people, that's the nature of the beast. That's not the way it goes here, but
that's the saddest thing, right? That's the thing that you can tell people about cannabis is that they can try this and it won't make them sick. And now you can't tell them that necessarily. You got to tell them that with a caveat, just like every fucking thing else. And that's something that we had over everything else.
I'm with you 100%, Sequence.
Where do you think the end game is? What do you think happens? I think carts are going to get regulated so much that there's going to be one company making them. And that's horrible for all of us, I think.
I just think I've always seen them as a different thing. We still have it. That's still the one thing we have because we grow flower. Period. We grow flower. We don't grow carts. All that process stuff, that's on. If you make your own process, if you're the one processing it, you can control all those things and you know what you have in it. And that's
so let me be the dum-dum.
Most of us growers right there.
Right. The dum-dum says this, okay, so I'm growing my own flower. How do I get from harvesting my plant to being able to make my own cart safely? Am I going to make rosin and then I'm going to do that and convert it into something I can use in a cart? And then what should I be using?
If you have rosin, all you got to do is throw it I haven't done it because I don't have rosin, but from what I've heard is you throw your rosin in your mason jar, seal it up to make it tight. And you can do it with something as simple as a heat mat for your clone dome. It'll take a long ass time, but you can either apply heat, a low heat for long periods of time. Eventually the consistencies will change. You can agitate it to get different consistencies, like whipping it, just like that. But eventually it'll turn more clear and be separated out, and you can use that. I mean, it's literally just time and heat.
It's just
Jartec to separate your terpenes from your THC.
But that sounds like let me just put it this way. As a dum-dum, that sounds like a pretty safe way that I could do it at home. I'm not going to blow my house up. I'm not going to introduce some other foreign chemical to doing this. I'm just going to use time and heat, which kind of dovetails with what I do with the whole thing with the belief in tinctures is you can just use time and darkness and cold and get the same results. You don't have to use heat.
Yeah, you're using different extraction. I mean, you're using an alcohol extraction. That's just as effective. You can do, rosin is more just a little bit of heat and pressure.
Rosin's great because it's unadulterated.
And
it's legal. When you consider BHO, you got to consider BHO versus rosin. People will talk about solvents and rosin and all of this stuff. You can do solvents correctly and you can purge all of it out. We smoke, Dab Smith's is BHO. Damn good concentrate. It's really hard to do at home, though. And it's totally illegal in Michigan without proper licensing to operate that equipment. But you can definitely operate bubble bags in a rosin press. Me and my friend have a 50-ton rosin press. So I think the safest way is definitely rosin. That's the one that you can do right at home. You can learn that as easily as a hair straightener. That's when people were starting to learn this stuff. They were using they would go steal their sister's hair straightener out of her bathroom, and then they'd go and press rosin with it and put it back, and it'd get all stuck in her hair the next day and stuff like that. And now we've got 20-ton and 50-ton presses, and people are doing Jartec. But if you don't have the budget, you can go all the way back and you can get hair straighteners now that are made for rosin. They're a little bit more expensive and a little bit beefier. And there's a lot of techniques, and you can actually do, you can press little buds like this and get wax that you can have right now, which is also something you can't do with butane processes. You got to wait and purge it and all that stuff.
Right. Working without solvents is nice. I mean, the issue is that your return is less, right? Let's be honest. If you're going to run a BHO run, you're going to get a big return. If you're going to use almost any of the solvents, if you're going to do hexane, especially, or CO2 or whatever. But anyway, at the end of all that, you're going to have your concentrate, and then what you do with it from there, you can do a bunch of different stuff with it from there, you know? So, I mean, I make bubble, and if I don't know, I have a bunch of food grade hash that I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with, you know? I might turn it into RSO. Yeah, look at that. There's some right there. Yeah, I've been busy washing and stuff, but I'm totally looking forward to, because of MI No-Till guy in that Puffco and his Slurricane sauce. It was so amazing. I'm super into now pressing some rosin and doing some jar tech and making some sauce. So I've got the hash. I've got to press it, and we'll see what happens. There's lots and lots. There's so many avenues to go here, you know, with extractions, solvent or solventless. So
I'm gonna have to meet up with you probably around this burnout time and get you all of my trims so that we can get together and process that into hash for me. And we'll talk about that more later, but I want to do a little collaboration and then run that through the 50-ton press and see what we get.
that'd be sweet.
Yes,
Yeah, let's make a day of it.
Yeah.
I'd like to piggyback on Skillbo's question a little bit there. And let's say I ain't got the time or the money to put into a press there to squeeze out some flavorful rosin, and I'm not too worried about taste here. I'm just a home user wanting to get my medicine and a quality medicine. Couldn't I do a quick alcohol wash and then almost like a Rick Simpson and boil it down to a good oil and vape it that way?
I don't know about the vaping part, but I know the reducing thing, you can do that simply with a hot plate or rice cooker outside, whatever, you know what I mean? You could definitely get it down. I don't know how clean it would be. It would just depend on how, I don't know. Somebody knows science more than me.
I've seen videos of them doing it, and basically they were taking it down to a nice clean oil, just like a 2-minute wash. It wasn't green. It was still pretty clear,
Yeah.
and they were making pens out of it. They had a base there, and they were just still like they do make carts now. They were just adding a drop to it, to a thinner, basically. But I guess my question is, why can't, could you stop the process a little bit earlier and make it a little bit runnier and vape it that way? Or is that, I don't know, just a question.
Yeah, I would just, it'd be way easier to do what I do and just buy those empty capsules and just, by weight, squeeze in your rosin so you can dose yourself at whatever weight. And then just swallow the capsule, man, because, I don't know why you'd want, it would taste so terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't leave any alcohol in it. I would definitely boil it all. The story goes is that they used to actually smoke that. They used to dab with that pre-butane extraction. Alcohol extraction was kind of one of the first ways of making FICO, and they used to sort of I don't know if it was like a hot knife type of way of smoking it or some type of way of dabbing it, but that was kind of the first. At least that's what I hear. I'm probably not old enough to really give you an accurate story dictation on that, but from what I hear,
You used to smear that on a paper.
Blindness was real popular back then.
Well,
I'd
don't get
imagine
me
you'd
wrong.
be able to thin it and put it into a vape cartridge. Thin it with some kind of maybe a terpene or something.
Don't get me wrong, you can get dabbable, good tasting dabs and even shatters out of alcohol extractions, but you're not going to do it out of trim, not usually. And
I would say start with bubble hash. Probably use like bubble hash or like something the old man makes. Something really nice, freeze dried or something, and then do a alcohol extraction, boil it down. 0 ppms of alcohol, no residual solvents, and then you're probably good with a thinner.
Right. With a vacuum pot, which is a very simple setup. You can get a little 3 CFM vacuum pump and a whatever other, the pot and the little glass thing for the top, the rubber seal at Harbor Freight for $100 or $120 or something. But with that and a little heat plate underneath that, you can get off all of the all your stuff. You just leave it for quite a while and make sure that your surface is as big as possible, right? So it gets as much air as possible. Keep turning it, work it around a little bit, you know.
Shout out to Harbor Freight, a grower's best friend, part 2.
Shout out to Kitchen Tech, Oven Tech.
And
Shout
that,
out to growers for figuring out all the different things that precede the word tech that we figured out in the last fucking even 3 years with rosin, you know, or 5 years that rosin has been really a thing. You've seen it go from hair straighteners to like diamonds and sauce.
Right.
That's from like potheads sitting around and going, what's a better way to do this? You know, that, you know, guys that are like you and I that are into the stoner truly chemistry going, what's the best way? What's the best, highest percentage extraction? How do it, you know, this and this and this and this. And man, they've really figured out a lot of stuff and paved the way for us and taught us a lot.
It's really only been a couple years since the latest YouTube video was people using isopropyl and alcohol to make a fucking extraction. That is bad for you. I never did that. I don't know what you're talking about, but yeah.
I agree. Don't use isopropyl. I try to use food grade alcohol the best that I can.
Yeah.
Try to
You
use
can get
as
like,
high proof as I can.
yeah, you can order 190 organic stuff on Amazon, you know.
yep, we'll ship it right to your door.
Or go to Indiana.
I typically go to Indiana. Grab a couple bottles of diesel, and that's what I use. Yep.
Grapeseed alcohol works real nice. That's what I use when I make RSO anyway.
And a tip too, like if like you're talking about with the quick washers, the whole idea of that is you're trying to, alcohol is a pretty astringent solvent, and the longer you leave it in there with plant material, it's going to start pulling chlorophyll, and that's the stuff that usually is associated with bad quality, bad taste. So you can actually, to avoid that, usually people do really quick washes, but if you can do it, if you have a way to get into cold temperatures, you can extend those times. So that way you can get more of the trichomes off without worrying about pulling chlorophyll. I mean, if you can get down, like you can get dry ice in a cooler and put your containers in that cooler, there's one quick, easy way you can do it with not even using power. Or if you got a deep freezer, if you can operate, you can get crazy and buy a deep freezer just for the process and just work in that deep freezer. You know what I mean? And then people get really crazy with it, but you can pull some really high quality. I mean, you can get shatters even. I mean,
dude, you can even get down the old school way with a piece of like silk screen, some dry ice, a 5-gallon bucket, and the rubber straps. You know what I mean? Like a tie down strap. Get that in a big old glass mirror, put it down flat, clean the mirror really, 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 really well, and then make sure that there's no animals or any hair flying around in the room. Go ahead, put whatever you're going to put in there, put the dry ice in there, seal it off, shake, shake, shake. Now realize the more you shake, yes, you're getting more of a return, but then think about what that return might be. That's what we're talking about, is this chlorophyll. Those really pretty colors that everybody likes and says, ooh, look at that blonde hash. Okay, well, that's not overly shaken. So the more you shake, the more degraded the product's going to become. That's up to you. You're the end consumer. You're the user. You know what you want to use and what you need. So that's my 2 cents on it. But you can get down for really, really cheap. And again, that's another way that you're getting to extract the plant without adding anything else as an extractor.
Or you could even do the ultimate, which Tara Lee actually just brought up in chat, was the dry sift. You take your dry flour and you're just bouncing it off of screens. You're not even using water at this point. So, and then you use the static tech after that, to help clean up your returns. So
just please don't use dry ice when you're doing your dry sift. Man, I've done that, and the hash you get after that is mostly leaf matter and a lot less hash. Try not to use the dry ice for that process.
Dry ice is usually gives you like keef. You could get about a keef quality.
We can't forget about one of the greatest things. I mean, we're a Michigan show. We got winter coming, guys. Do your extractions outside when it's freezing.
I'm so excited so excited for cool weather, man. Oh my God. It's been rough. It's been a rough summer in some senses, because I would have to wash in the middle of the night. My room isn't set up with a bunch of air conditioners and all that kind of stuff like I suppose some people might have. But it's nice and cool. But
I got a semi-cheap workaround, which is to buy a small tent, which is comfortable for you to sit on a bucket and work on, and then get a small AC unit or run a line from the AC unit that you're doing to work in there while you're getting that done.
well, I
That's a
have
good
a
idea.
washroom. I have a washroom that's actually pretty small, and I have a drain in the floor, and I have to have a drain in the floor for my system. The way I'm set up. Spartan saw it this weekend, the setup and how I do it. It's pretty simple, really.
I'd love to do a lab with you, old man.
Let's do it. Old man's got.
I have washers and I will travel. I do.
I think we're just gonna have a big meetup out there. Everybody's coming to Hermit's with the trim.
I'll mow my
I have
trim. You guys can camp and we'll have a trim party and everyone can go home with a couple ounces. It'll be sweet.
I'd love to trim up my washers, my bag, and some trims. And swap ideas while we were doing it. That'd be completely awesome.
Eagle's middle name is Gypsy.
Well, it was it kind of was one of my ideas with this whole setup was to help, people in my community wash their stuff. I mean, how many people with 12 plants might have 12 pounds potentially or more of cannabis, right? And that's a lot to trim. It's a lot to cure when you're washing hash, especially if you're going to press it into rosin. Obviously, only if you're going to press it into rosin, mostly. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But, you just strip your plants, throw them in a bag, and throw them in the freezer. There's nothing else to it. So it eliminates all of your trimming, all of your curing process. Basically, throw it in the freezer, and then it gets washed, It's pretty sweet. The only issue is it's got to stay cold after that, And once it warms up, it's going to get gummy. And, if you want bubble hash, it's got to stay cold.
So you need to get a walk-in freezer to work in, is what you're saying, in the floor.
People have done that. I've seen that.
Yeah. Now, Dank Duchess, she works in freezers all the time. And I actually do have access to a big walk-in refrigerator place, but I'm all right.
What people are doing is they're using, in certain areas, they're like warehouses, and they will buy walk-in coolers, from like restaurants that have closed down and shit. Those break down really easily. You can set them back up. So people actually grow in those, vent into, vent out of, and they have a whole thing. Look at old scissor hash hands over there. But I know this because the guy who does the spraying of the buildings, like also sprays the building that I used to work at. And he was like, oh yeah, man, this is totally what they're doing with this shit. So I thought that was really interesting. And is for someone who's a hash maker, if you can get a walk-in cooler and you have the room to set it up, if you can get one for like $700, I mean, you're getting it used, but you can clean that bitch up, man. It's a feasible thing. Think of all the money you've already invested into this to be able to have a controlled environment like that could be really worthwhile for somebody to look into.
I love winter times up here. I've been known to make hash outside. Shovel me out a spot, use 10 inches of snow in my damn water. About 2 o'clock in the morning, just out there, just fucking making hash. And that's no word of a lie. It's a great time in northern Michigan to make hash. You could just make the best hash out of the year, middle of the winter up here.
Yep. Colder the better,
Negative 28 will do that for you.
Yep.
I could see Eagle's crazy ass standing out in the snow making hash.
With no hat on.
Northern Michigan, it's like wind chill's like 35 below most nights.
Sequence, I'll send you the picture after this chat, but I am known. This is fucking hilarious. This is honest to God truth. I'll get high because I live out in the middle of nowhere, so I can do whatever the fuck I want, anytime I want. You might get a crazy snowmobilers drive by once in a while, but not too often. But we get them minus wind chill days. I've got a fucking Friday the 13th mask. you'll see me out there 3 o'clock in the fucking morning, all bundled up with that fucking Friday the 13th mask out there shoveling. And I'm telling you what, you come blowing through on your snowmobile, you might hit a tree going, what the fuck? That's the truth.
You got to have the coveralls on too, bro.
Oh, he says he does.
I'll show you the pictures. Coverall, whole fucking shot. You'd think it was Jason out there fucking shoveling driveways and shit.
I think that that's a great thing to try to end our show on. I'm laughing my ass off. And when I was a DJ, I learned to try to always end on a high note. So I want to go through everyone again and have us give us your socials and how everyone can find you. And I wanted to thank all of the panel members for an awesome show. Eagle, where do we find you, man?
Instagram mainly, Eagle Gardens 1, Mass Roots, Eagle Gardens, all that stuff, Canna, Buzz, all that stuff, Eagle Gardens across the board. I'd like to thank you guys for letting me sit in, chat with you guys once again. Always great. Thank you for everybody tuning in, and hopefully see you all Saturday at the Burnout to get to smoke down.
I'll be there. Red Setter, where do people find you, my friend?
Find me on Instagram and on Cannabuzz at Red Setter Farm. I'm also on Strainly. You can find my bio on Strainly, and I may or may not be on there actively in the future. So those are pretty much the 3 platforms that I'm on, but primarily Instagram.
Old man, where do we find you, my friend?
You can find me at Old Man Hermit Hash at Instagram and Gmail. Pretty much, that's it. It was really cool hanging out with you guys. Busy popping seeds. It's gonna be a good winter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my mood has really improved since meeting all you guys on here and especially in person. Abolished, where do we find you, my friend?
You guys can find me on IG and also on YouTube. Every week there's a new episode every Wednesday. Don't miss it. Get over there and sub up.
Check it out. Abolished has a cool show.
Super cool.
Spartan Grown.
And go on Instagram, that's where you'll find me. I want to shout out Hermit Man, man. I had an awesome time hanging with you, man. And thank you for those seeds. Fucking floored me. Got me some newberry seeds. So I got so much shit now. I want to pop everything. God, you guys are killing me.
Yeah, I want to grow every fucking plant. Skilbo, you got anything you want to add?
I would like to add that I can't believe that the show is over already. Like, it seems like we are like at hour 1 instead of hour 2, which that means that's a good thing for me. I really enjoyed it. I liked that it was just kind of like a free-flowing bullshit session as always. You can find me on Instagram and on Cannabuzz and Skilbo1, and I hope that everybody's back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
I wanted to thank everybody on the panel again. I wanted to thank everyone for viewing. If you really enjoy the show, share it with a friend. Let them know. Let them know that you like the show. Let them know about the show. Tomorrow's Monday, so wake up and kick it in the ass. Thanks again for watching.